Welcome back to the State Squad I'm your host, Dylan Sanders from Saints Wire, and I didn't get much sleep this weekend because there was a jazz funeral going on all weekend long.
I'm Ross Jackson, host of the Locked On Saints podcast. I didn't get much sleep this weekend because there was some major news in New Orleans.
John Hendricks, New Orleans football. I'll have a Samuel Jackson.
This is former Saints wide receiver Lance Moore, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Derek Carr will not be the guest captain for any games in the 2025 season.
It's the Saints Squad, sponsored by Gametime. Everything New Orleans Saints, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from down in the Big Easy, the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Saints Squad show, starting now.
Howdy, Hood Nation. Welcome back to the
Pouring
Saints
one out
Squad.
for my homie. Oh, sorry.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen every Monday and Thursday. We have a unique group of experts here ready to bring you a fun and informative show on everything New Orleans Saints. Today, you can probably guess what we're going to be talking a lot about, but we're going to be going into the Saints need to sign a veteran quarterback now. Was Derek Carr the worst free agent signing in team history? What did Derek Carr leave behind? But first, we have to get to general reactions to the Derek Carr retirement. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. What is going on? Derek Carr's retired. Came out of nowhere. I woke up one day and I thought I was dreaming still. Ross, what was your first reaction whenever you heard that Derek Carr retired?
I don't do this very often in life because I don't know why, but it was one of those things to where like I looked at my phone and then I went, and then I went back to my phone, like a double take, you know what I mean? Like I don't do that very often because like you're typically, I don't know, I'm pretty good at just kind of believing what I see immediately or whatever. But like for that moment, for whatever reason, it was just the surprise of it. I don't think that, and I don't want to speak for everybody here, but I don't think that based on our conversations, any of us were surprised to see the relationship between the New Orleans Saints and Derek Carr come to an end. It was the retirement part that for me was the biggest surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was in a big box place, and I'm not going to put them on there because they don't pay us for it. But
yeah,
anyways, I was doing all sorts of. I was just doing my shopping, like I literally have my stuff in my hand. I look, I'm with you, Ross. I'm just what, and then drop all my stuff. I'm like, there's no way. Like, say psych, like you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like Usher, nah, man, say what? You know he's talking on the video, but like, I mean, seriously, I know when we talked on this show last that we talked about, you know, we were going to be really surprised if Derek Carr played right in week 1 and all this other stuff. It was going that. I didn't expect retirement. I expected surgery. Yeah. I expected a lot of different things than retirement. So it's really was shocking to say the least. I mean, I get it. People are acting the fool in New Orleans, all this other stuff, but retirement, man, to not be able to do something you love anymore, that's tough, man, and to be down that bad.
Yeah, it is. It was not what I expected to see at all. Lance, what did you think?
Well, first I started getting texts, and none of the texts had links or anything. So I was just kind of like, what is going on? So immediately I jump onto Twitter and I see the news. And being someone who kind of retired probably sooner than I should have, I kind of felt like, oh man, like, you know, you get to this point where mentally you just kind of realize you don't really want to do it anymore. Now, I'm not sure if this is actually the injury is the 100% reason why he's retiring, right? Because there is a mental side of this as well. I was checked out. Like physically, I was fine, but mentally, I was like, man, you know what? I'm done. Like I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
And so for him to allegedly have gotten a couple of injections to try to speed up the process with the shoulder, you know, be thinking and talking potential surgery. And then, even before the retirement announcement, announced that like he wants to get back healthy to be able to play week 1. Right. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts, and look, I'm not going to be over here like celebrating a guy's career ending, but I think people are well within their right to be celebrating the fact that Derek Carr is not the Saints quarterback anymore. It was every quarterback from here on out is going to have it tough in New Orleans forever and ever and ever because of Drew Brees, right? Like there's going to be an immense amount of pressure. And not to go out on that type of tangent, but I would say he was overpaid and underperformed in his time in New Orleans. So legitimate concerns about what type of quarterback we were going to get this season now kind of go out the window. And now it seems to be an open competition with 2 young guys that are hungry. So, I'm all for it. And, it sucks for him, clearly, if the injury is the main reason. And I mean, he's a quarterback. So if his shoulder's jacked up, it's kind of hard to do what he's supposed to be doing out there on the field. So there is a soft spot in my heart for an injured guy going out. But, I think this is good news for the team, because to me, it means the reset is happening now. We don't have to wait another year.
It's not a guess.
It's going to be a situation where the team can now look forward to the future.
I was going to say, but go ahead.
I was going to say, talk us through what is the money side of this?
Oh, Lord have mercy. Yes, I'm happy to do that. First of all, I want to say that I need to go and get some glasses like Lance, because we got the bald, bearded.
Oh my God,
we got it all.
I died looking at a comment.
Anybody that's listening, I'm sorry. I hate to do like just visual specific things, but you have to come and check out the YouTube video, because Lance and I are I don't know, man. We're getting close, Lance. Like, we're spending a lot of time together, man.
I like how they said Lance looks like Ross with glasses, not Ross looks like
Ross looks like Lance without glasses. Like, Lance is the standard bearer. I'm over here like,
I think I might be a little bit older, so maybe
a little bit older, and I'm 120 pounds soaking wet, my guy. Like I ain't even close. I ain't even in the ballpark. No, but I think that so the way that the financials work along all of this, I think, is the other important piece, because the next thought after what retirement was, this is exactly what the New Orleans Saints need, right? And so I'm right there with you, Lance, that like this was the big thing that they needed, whether it was the retirement or not the retirement, just the split is what needed to happen. And then on top of that, the way that the financials are set to work out is massive. So the New Orleans Saints are going to recoup $30 million. Now they're not going to recoup $30 million immediately. It's not they're going to walk away with $57 million in cap space right away. But the way that we believe that this is going to work is that they'll get their base salary back, that they, when they restructure a contract, you take a base salary, which was $30 million initially. You bring it all the way down to the vet minimum, which is the lowest that a player can be paid based upon the number of years that they've been in the NFL. There's ranges, and each of those ranges has a specific minimum. For him, it's $1.255 million. After they post the retirement on June 2nd, I think it was Nick Underhill who reported that it will be a post-June 1 transaction. They'll get that $1.255 million back, we believe, and then the remaining $28.745 million will come back to them next season by virtue of his dead cap dropping. And so that's a major situation for New Orleans, because that puts them in position to roll over money from this year to next year, whatever they don't spend by the end of the season. And so ideally they're able to hold on to a good chunk of change by the end of the year. You have an ever rising salary cap every year in the NFL, and you get effectively $28.7 million back to you by virtue of his dead cap falling. That kind of puts them pretty close to being, dare I say, guys, salary cap compliant by the beginning of the new league year in 2026, which is massive for this team. If they're not there, then they'll be really close. That's the way that we expect that the financials are going to work at this time. As with all things salary cap, it's convoluted. We'll see what details change over time, but that's what we're expecting to happen.
Yeah.
That's a huge win for New Orleans too, by the way.
Huge win. I mean, I think that is even more so than the product on the field this season. I feel like that is the biggest impact from the New Orleans. Because, I mean, to be fair, I don't think any of us really thought he was going to play anyway. So the fact that nothing's really changing on that side of things,
Right.
but also the Saints have now fixed their money,
which is
and
insane. And listen, Derek Carr's a nice guy, but I don't know if he's $30 million nice. All right. So like Mickey, Kai, the Saints deserve a little bit of credit on this situation here, because they got something right somewhere in order to allow this, or to be able to kind of get this down the road. It's not easy to tell a guy, hey, yeah, you can retire. Like Lance, imagine retiring, but then having to give up 3/4 of what you were guaranteed on the way out the door. You know what I mean? If you were guaranteed anything. And so like that's a major situation for New Orleans.
Well, yeah, and it's also a big deal because his injury allegedly was sustained in the game last year. So if he were to have surgery, they would not have been able to get this cap relief at all. You know what I mean? It's different if he's out, playing pickup football with the kids, or if he's golfing, water skiing, or something like that in the offseason. Then there's a situation where the team could, try to get some of that money back, right? It would be a non-football injury situation. But the fact that he got hurt during the season in a game, like they would have obviously had to put him on injured reserve, and he probably would not have played this year, but they wouldn't have been able to get any cap relief because of that. So
he was entitled to every penny of that.
For sure. He was guaranteed that money, and he sustained an injury while playing football. So, that not to laugh at a guy losing money, but I mean, he made plenty of money in New Orleans. He made plenty of money in his career, and he did a solid to the team, him and his representation, obviously. And he didn't go out of here penniless now. Like they gave him $10 million a couple of weeks ago. You know what I mean? So, it's definitely an interesting and very unique situation, one that I don't know that we've seen in recent memory, at least. But yeah, I mean, the cap relief for sure. I agree with you, Dylan, that's a major deal. Now, there are other questions right now. What does the team do as far as quarterback goes? And we'll be talking about that. But every rookie free agent now, they've all been signed, but every rookie draft pick, and then any veteran player that they sign, obviously is going to add to this year's cap. But again, the money that they can move to next year, and potentially with the raise in salary cap in 2026, they could be in the green. And it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's wild.
And the thing is, they've been working for this for years now, and I'm not saying that they've arrived, but it's trending in that right direction. So it's like at one point, I think they had Ross, $30 million of cap space. Like, when ever have they ever had that much money and such? And so hopefully, I like the fact of, I know the market changes, right? Like pass rushers are getting paid at a premium, even tight ends are getting paid a pretty penny, but not having to potentially sign a high price veteran quarterback now, I think it gives this team more options. Like $30 million, I feel like you could really slice that in a lot of different ways and really upgrade your team. Not that the quarterback position isn't important, but if they can get what they need either out of Shuck or Rattler or whoever it is to be named. I mean, I know Hayner's obviously in this mix as well, but who knows what's going to end up happening. This could help them out, but I like how Lance touched on the injury, and allegedly, maybe it'll come out one day what actually happened or not, but it is something, because if it was something football related, he could have pushed for that entire money, right? Like that's the thing, is that is what people need to understand. And so again, I'm not saying that there's any lying or anything like that, you know what I'm saying? But I think this is probably what's best for both of them. Handshake, let's move on type thing.
Yep. Amicable.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I guess you'd rather have that money whenever there's more like of the free agent class available for this upcoming season. But again, now you look next year, and all the contracts that you set up to have restructured again kind of don't have to be, and you can still sign more players.
Yep. Yeah. And you have a pass rusher that could be your top pass rusher that's already under contract for $17 million per year. Like, think about where they are in terms of the highest grossing positions. Edge rusher, $17 million per year for Chase Young right now. Tackles both could potentially be on rookie contracts. Like, they're in a really good position. And then, as John mentioned, quarterbacks, all three options are on rookie contracts. Like, that's a real advantageous situation to be for the next, let's call it, not just next year, but the next 2 years or so as well, looking ahead to 2027.
Yeah. Well, coming up next, we're going to be talking about what Derek Carr left on the field and why the Saints are just better off overall because of this. We're talking about the Saints looking at their money, looking at their phones and be like, man, we have all this money now. Have you ever looked at your money, your bank account and be like, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you just stop managing your money and you start building wealth. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. We're back, and it is time to be talking about the product on the field that Carr left behind. Now there's a potential, 3 quarterback competition.
Yeah, right.
That they've said. So Derek Carr leaves. They have Jake Haener, Spencer Rattler, and Tyler Shuck behind. What's the news? What's the feeling? Is it how fun is it?
I mean, it's fun, but I don't believe it's all 3 of those guys, if I'm being entirely honest. Like, I'm not trying to be disparaging to anybody, but this feels very much like a 2-horse race. Am I out of my mind saying that? Like, this feels very much like it's Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler more than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is where a point where, like, they just cut Ben DiNucci not that long ago, and Jake Haener. Look,
right.
I know he's going to do everything he can in this offseason to help position himself. But again, realistically, from what we saw last year, everything this year, Shuck has got to be in that conversation. And if you're going to choose somebody from last year, it's got to be Spencer Rattler, because they turned to Spencer Rattler, gave him the most opportunities, snaps, and stuff. And so, look, I hope Jake Haener gets better in the offseason. I hope he comes into the table and can ball out as well, because I think this is something I wrote about too, is just not a thing, but I did, is what an awesome situation to go from being, I don't know about the quarterback situation or the quarterback spot, to now, if I have 2 really good solutions now at quarterback, they're kind of set up for a little bit here. And that's what's exciting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially having both those guys on rookie contracts, man, that's huge.
Right. Yeah. Well, to me, it's the big if. Like, if both of these guys end up being really good, they're in a good position. You know what I mean? Like, it's, the jury is still clearly out on Tyler Shuck. I think we've seen flashes from Spencer Rattler. I think we've seen that there are, he's been in enough games and situations that we see that he's not scared. I mean, I do think we can say that about him. Like, he's not going to be a guy that's going to be unprepared or shaky in moments in games. Like, he seems to have that, which I think is a good thing to have as a quarterback. But I agree with you, Ross. I think this is a 2-horse race. And I think, unfortunately for Jake Haener, I mean, he's just the circumstances don't set up well for him. I think he's going to be around. I think that they will add another quarterback at some point now that Carr is gone. But I think the 2 of those guys are going to duke it out. And as a fan of Spencer Rattler, I hope he gets an equal opportunity. We don't know if that's truly what's going to happen. But Tyler Shuck is clearly Kellen Moore's guy. So, it's going to be an uphill battle for Spencer Rattler, I think. As a fan and as a former player, I obviously would hope the best man wins the job. But we don't make that decision. right? We're not the ones that
Right.
get paid to make those decisions, and we're going to have to trust Kellen Moore and that staff to be able to get the best out of whoever ends up being the starting quarterback this year.
Yeah.
They may add Hunter Deckers after this rookie minicamp. I wouldn't.
Yeah, they liked what they saw from him for sure.
I can't say I didn't not like what I saw from him either. You know what I'm saying? So, lefty,
they could
man.
have 4 guys on rookie quarterbacks or rookie quarterback contracts. Yeah, I think that the thing that you highlighted there, Lance, that's so important is this is Kellen Moore's decision. And as long as Kellen Moore gets to pick his guy, and what I mean his guy, I mean the guy that he wants, not just Tyler Shuck, right? We know he kind of handpicked Tyler Shuck in the draft, but by the time that he gets to see everything, you just hope that he's able to go out there and pick the guy, select the guy to be the starter, that he wants to be the guy, and that there's not pressure anywhere else. This needs to be Kellen Moore's decision. And if it's Kellen Moore's decision, a guy that is not only won with, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, and Jalen Hurts, but is also won with Tanner McKee and Cooper Rush and Kenny Pickett, there's a real opportunity here for these young guys working with him. So I think that has to be the number one most important piece, is that Kellen Moore gets the guy that he wants to be that starting quarterback. I think that's got to be the number one priority here.
And it's hard not to feel like the guy that he drafted in the second round gets a little preferential treatment.
Sure.
But
yeah.
But again, like we've said, it should be an open competition. I mean, now I guess the most veteran guy in the room is Jay Kaner, but between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck, Rattler's been around longer. And knows, the building and the team a little bit more. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens and how long it takes them to come to a decision on the starting quarterback, even officially. If we can start, seeing in practice, one guy starts getting more first team snaps and whatnot. It's going to be interesting to see the decision-making process now that they have a question mark at quarterback.
Can I ask a question for Lance real quick?
Yeah.
I know I always do that. In this type of a process, Lance, I'm sorry, I can't remember if there was ever a time in your career that you've experienced like a quarterback competition, right? Nothing like that. But thinking about it from your perspective,
NFL Europe, baby. NFL Europe.
I was gonna say like maybe something like that. But like, I'm just curious, like for even just thinking about it from your perspective, when would you prefer as a player? Obviously, it all comes down to the coaches, but what would you prefer as a player, as a teammate, for there to be a starting quarterback named? Like, are you okay with that going all the way through the preseason as a teammate, or is that something like you'd rather that earlier? Like, how does that work? And maybe that's only for you, right? Which is fine.
Yeah, I think it would be different for different guys, right? Like the ball handling is different for running backs. The cadence and the communication between the quarterback and the offensive line is a little bit different. Honestly, like as a receiver, being a guy that was like, undrafted, cut a bunch of times, practice squad, like I was used to being in the huddle with all the quarterbacks. You know what I mean?
Oh,
so
sure. Yeah.
It did not matter to me at all who was calling the plays, who was taking the snaps, and who was delivering the football. Just put the ball in the right place at the right time. That's all I cared about. So honestly, like just knowing that you're going to have one voice, like that is important. But I don't really have experience since 2000. Spring 2006, when I was playing in Berlin, having to figure out who our quarterback was going to be. But I wasn't leaving practice or in my room at night wondering or worrying about who's going to be taking the snaps. I just I didn't care.
Holding the photo.
Yeah, like
it's this guy.
Which one of these guys do I like more? No, I don't. From a receiver perspective, I don't think it matters as much as it may to other positions. But I do think it is tough for a coach to really like get some momentum and have their guy sooner rather than later. Like, because if this goes through the preseason and we're going into week 1 and he's named a starter, but it's not like a solid, like, oh, so-and-so will start week 1. Like, ooh, like that'll be tough. Like once you get into regular season games and game planning and tendencies and things like that, like that would be tougher than if we're halfway through the preseason. He's like, this is going to be our starter this year.
Yeah.
And I would imagine, I don't think it's going to go down to the wire. I just don't.
Yeah.
I think it'll be through this off season, the start of camp. They'll both be taking reps with the ones, but I don't think this is going to be something that he's going to drag along.
Yeah, you definitely it never works out. Whatever you hear a team is like, okay, so we have one starter in week 1 and another starter in week 2, and they battle it out in the middle of the regular season.
Yeah.
I mean,
somebody,
yeah.
John, when we were at the annual meeting, we asked Kellen a similar question, but it was about the QB2 spot, right? Where he was like, "Now I'd want to have that set before going in, and that person is that person." I would have to imagine you would apply that same logic to QB1.
I mean, yeah, regardless of what's said, I mean, of course, you're going to be treating this in fairness because, I mean, you do want to see who the best quarterback is going to be. I think they might have an idea in their mind. And something, look, I will tell you, because we're going to talk about other quarterbacks and all this other stuff. In that short sample of rookie minicamp that we watched, the two things that stood out to me, obviously, they have a lot of quarterback experience in that building already. And that's something that I think everybody should remember. Kellen Moore is a former quarterback. Scott Tolzien, Doug Nussmeier, Scott Linehan, all these offensive guys, right? The biggest thing I picked up on in rookie minicamp is the mobility of the quarterback, the RPO stuff. Like all those two things are totally big things that people should consider here. Is that I saw more mobility drills in that short little window than I think I saw a lot more last year. And I'm being recency bias probably, right? But I'm just saying is I think there is a type of a build or type that Kellen Moore wants for this offense. I think he has some options here in his building. And so that's why it's like, okay, you could go out and get a different quarterback or this or that. But I just think that he's got a nice mixture in the building right now to say, okay, I think we've got something here. Now we just got to figure out who's going to be that guy. Right.
Yep. So funny. The expectation for this segment was, what is it that Derek Carr leaves behind? And it's clear that what Derek Carr has left behind is opportunities for another quarterback. It's kind of interesting. Like
it is. It is.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it is an interesting thing to where like he leaves, and really the thing that he's left behind is a quarterback competition, not necessarily a legacy here in New Orleans, which I think kind of summarizes what the Derek Carr experience was in New Orleans.
It was a mixed bag, right? Like in Lance talking about knowing the starting quarterback, and I'm not going to put players on blast here, right? But when they had a chance the first year Carr was here and Jameis Winston took the helm, there was some general excitement from players. Not that it was bad. I'm not going to sit here and go down this rabbit hole, but there was a difference in saying, okay, Lance talked about how they command the huddle, how they run everything, how they operate, what kind of targets it, like, different things from different quarterbacks and what they're looking for. Right. And so I'm just saying is Carr played his heart out. Right. Like, I'm not going to deny that the dude came in here and played hard. Right. Nobody can look at his tape and look at his stuff and say he didn't try to play hard for New Orleans. Right. And
just look at the play that ended it all.
I mean, yeah.
Ill-advised, but he was playing hard.
Yeah. And so again, for him, look, it's done. What's done is done, right? We can sit here and harp on it and everything, but I think right now, what Ross said, it opens the door for something new, something different, and I think fans were ready for something new and something different.
Yeah. Well, coming up next, we're going to go over still talk about this, but maybe go in a lighthearted way and talk about some other players who might not have had the best tenures in New Orleans. I'm going to say some names to y'all. Jarris Bird.
Yeah, I was going to say, you say worst free
Colby
agents.
Fleener.
Jarris
Brandon
Bird.
Browner.
That one's pretty bad.
Jason David.
Yeah.
Darren
Lance PTSD.
Carr.
Look at Lance. Look at Lance.
JD has some moments, man. Like
He has
I
moments.
don't think he should be on this list at all.
I don't think so.
I think it was. Well, you know what's funny is look.
outsourced.
I'm not trying to monopolize that, Dylan, but Lance played with Jason David, right? And then everybody
right.
gets on him so bad. Like, what's your take, Lance? Like, give us the Cliff Notes version or
Look,
whatever.
I think JD was a good player. Now he's coming from the Colts. They had beat us in 07, but they had won a Super Bowl in 06. Small, super small, like one of the smallest cornerbacks that I ever played with or against. But Duke could play, man. Like I hear those other names and they're kind of cringy. Like when I hear his name, I'm like, nah, like JD Ball. Like he he might not have come in and been Deion Sanders, right? But I don't think anybody expected that. Like he came in and he definitely had his moments and all corners are going to give up some plays. I don't think he belongs on that list. I don't know. And maybe it is because I played with him and that's my guy. But I mean, those other names are pretty bad.
I mean, you got to think too with Jason David. It was an offer sheet, right? Like it was a different.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Yep.
Jairus Byrd, $54 million, right? Like they paid this dude a lot of money. And with Jason David, it wasn't. Now you can go back cost analysis, all that stuff. I still don't think it was even close. They brought Jairus Byrd in there to fix their secondary, and it was supposed to be a thing because they lost Malcolm, and I think their safety room was pretty questionable at best, right? It was bleak, so questionable. You know what I'm saying? But he was supposed to come in and change the franchise, change the defense, all this other stuff, and he didn't. He didn't.
Yeah. So do y'all think that this now becomes like the Derek Carr contract now becomes the signifier for like the worst free agent signing in Saints history?
I might have the unpopular opinion on this one. I might have the unpopular opinion.
I still that Jairus Byrd thing because here's the thing: the Jairus Byrd thing, they had to deal with a whole bunch of dead money for their mistake, right? And
$28 million guaranteed on that.
It was a lot of money that they had to deal with and navigate and all that stuff from that Byrd deal. So I mean that's me. I know Ross is gonna say no, it's different, but
no. Look, for me, like I thought I would have the unpopular opinion because I was gonna say I don't think Derek Carr's contract is the worst contract that's been given out now because of the $30 million that the Saints got back. I think that changes everything for me because otherwise you took a swing at a quarterback, and if you're taking a swing at a quarterback, you're gonna pay a pretty penny to do that. And so if you're funneling money in, you're going to overpay at that position. It was between, the Saints and the Jets and stuff like that. And so I genuinely don't feel like Derek Carr's contract is the worst free agent signing in New Orleans Saints history. I think it's top 5. I think it might be top 3, but I don't think it's the worst. I still think the Jairus Byrd one is way, way worse because here's the other thing that the truth about like the Jairus Byrd thing is look at I hate to do this, but look at the results, right? 33 games, 3 interceptions over the course of that time from the guy that was supposed to come in and change your secondary, the guy that was supposed to come in and revamp your defense, right? And came in hurt, right? Had the back injury and all those other things, like, and that was like previously existing. That wasn't like Derek Carr arrived having missed one game due to injury in his career. The other ones were like the way that things ended in Las Vegas and all that. So he had missed, let's say, less than a handful of games to injury. And then he comes to New Orleans and he has kind of this Iron Man reputation. And then as happens sometimes when you give a $150 million contract to a 33-year-old quarterback, that like eventually that takes a downturn, and it took a downturn here in New Orleans. So I thought I would be in the minority here because, minority, but I also thought that I was going to be in the minority because of the fact that like, I was going to say that Derek Carr's contract is not the worst free agency signing for the Saints history.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Lance, what do you think?
I see what Ross is trying to say. Like I feel him to a certain extent, but overpaying for a safety and overpaying for a quarterback are not in the same world to me. Like,
I think overpaying for a safety is worse.
You overpay a safety, and it costs you a couple extra $1 million. You overpay a quarterback, and it costs you a couple extra $10 millions of dollars, right?
Sure.
And honestly, if I'm a general manager, I'm not signing a free agent safety thinking this guy's going to take me to a Super Bowl, right? I'm signing a free agent safety thinking this guy's going to help our team. He's going to be good for our secondary. We lost our 2 veteran safeties. This guy's going to come in and make plays and be who he's been up until now, right? Like, sure, he came in and underperformed. He underperformed the contract. He underperformed his past or his prior performances. Sure. But if you're paying over $100 million to a quarterback, you're paying $100 million to a quarterback because you think that this guy is going to give you a chance to win a Super Bowl, or at least give you a chance to win a division championship and make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, at least make it to the playoffs.
That to me is what makes the Carr contract probably one of the worst ones ever, because he was a quarterback that came in and under-delivered, I would say.
Yeah. I think it's top 3. I think it's one of the worst that they've ever done. I just don't think it's the worst. And the other reason why is because they got that $30 million back. Like, if they would have ended up having a post-June 1 them and $40 million was walking out of the door and they were taking all that dead cap and everything like that, the way that it looked like it was going to $80 million of dead cap over the course of those 2 years, worst contract in the Saints history. Easy. But I think getting that $30 million back just kind of changed it a little bit for me when it comes to like that piece of it, the money side of it. Because what, 2 years, 70 million?
But we're also giving them $10 million to not play.
True.
You know, like sure,
True.
Yeah, you
it
got
feels like small potatoes
back, but here's $10 million to go on their way.
Yeah, $10 million always feels like small potatoes to the New Orleans Saints, right? $10 million walking out the door happens when, you know, Mickey sneezes. You know what I mean? Like, that's just part of how they manage the cap and everything. So like that. And so when I look at like the years that he played, right, he got $10 million to be on the roster for a little bit during the 2025 offseason. But then the 2 years that he played, 2 years, $60 million in terms of what that was, a $30 million deal over the course of 2 years that he played. I don't know. I think that it just kind of shades it a little bit different for me. Like I said, I'm probably wrong, and that's okay. I do think, though, that it is one of the worst contracts that they've given out. I just don't think it's the worst.
From a pure performance on the field standpoint, I feel like we have to talk about Brandon Browner.
Do we have to?
I mean,
penalty. Saints holding number 39 defense. Automatic first down.
Touchdown.
God.
Colby Fleener was another really disappointing one.
The Fleener one was really disappointing.
I thought Fleener could be something. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he did contribute in that one comeback win against Redskins at the time, but
yeah.
These aren't worst free agent signings, but like ones that like never went anywhere. Like, you imagine like Champ Bailey and Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, at least those weren't like big. Yeah. At least those were like big money ones, but yeah.
I'm really gonna open up the wounds here, but not just the free agents, but giving people your own money, like the Junior Gillette move. That was not a good do. That one was rough. Lance ain't gotta say nothing on that one, but
you're good. You're good.
Bro.
That was a tough one.
I think paying your own players to me is better than bringing a guy in who hasn't earned anything in your building yet. That to me, and undrafted free agent guy getting paid, I'm not really going to ever complain about that. You know?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's
yeah. You know what? What always stands out? Oh, go ahead.
Let the man finish. No.
The thing that always stands out to me about the Derek Carr situation was like when he arrived in the introductory press conference, he spent all that time telling everybody what he wasn't going to be as opposed to what he was going to be. And to me, like that's one of those like mentality things that I always check. You know, you got Tyler Shuck out here talking about how he's going to die on the field for everybody. And you're like, all right, slow down, Tyler. Like you ain't got to go that far, homie. It's all good. But like, I mean, you know, if you genuinely feel that way, but like he spent a lot of time talking about how like he wasn't going to be the savior. He wasn't going to come in and take over guys like, you know, Demario Davis and Cam Jordan. And he wasn't going to come in and like overstate his welcome, but like, you know, overstate his position or whatever, everything like that. And it was a lot of like, here's what I'm not going to be, and not a lot of here's what I'm going to be. And I don't know, does that matter to anybody else? But that kind of mattered to me when I looked back on it. But did that matter to anybody?
mean,
like, or
in
is that
high-
a thing that matters to anybody?
In hindsight, he was like, guys, in a couple years, y'all are going to be thinking I'm the worst free agent signing in team history. I can't believe y'all gave me this money.
But I mean, Ross is right. Like he did say that. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be Drew Brees. I'm just trying to be Derek Carr. He was brought in to help with the leadership in the locker room. Like there's all sorts of things that he was brought in to do and to help with the team. And again, if we're looking at results, did they get anywhere with some of that? I mean, they didn't last year, right? And the year before that. I mean, there's promise. I mean, there's a whole things you could point fingers at. You could point fingers at was it a Pete Carmichael issue? Was it a personnel issue?
Right.
Was it this issue? Was it a coaching issue? Was it the defense's fault? Like you can sit here and make excuses till you're blue in the face or point to blame at everybody, right? But at some point you do have to look yourself in the mirror and say, was I a hindrance or was I helping or did I have some things that I probably could have done better? And I think there's probably somewhere in the middle where everything lies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, truth is always somewhere in the middle of those extremes, for sure. I don't know. It's so interesting. Like here's the one thing we can safely say, guys. Derek Carr did not leave behind a legacy in New Orleans that New Orleans Saints fans are going to remember positively. Like that's the thing that we know for sure. And it might be the understatement of the world in the way that I just phrased it, but I think that's the thing that we know. And it's one of the reasons why I think a lot of Saints fans, like Lance was talking about earlier, like none of us are going to sit here and like dance on the idea that Derek Carr is gone. That's not what we're here to do. But I can see it from the perspective of fans that are like, okay, now there's a new future. There's an excitement. There's all these other things because they weren't pleased with what they got from the guy that was supposed to be their quarterback.
Look, I'm always remember him hitting the MJ celebration in Dallas.
Man, that was a
That
different
was
time.
top two moment for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That and Shaheed freaking run, like Rashid run,
Yep.
freaking run, like that one.
Yeah.
Those two. I mean, there's been some moments, but again,
Uh-huh.
you didn't move the needle for the organization. Like they still missed the playoffs, right? Like it's good, feel good spots, but you always find some positive and some negative.
Yeah, I will. I will always remember the 2 weeks where the Saints were, having like
Super
the
Bowl
best
champions?
the Super Bowl.
Oh.
I don't remember anything about James Laurinaitis' tenure. So I just wanted to throw one more name out there.
Just keep pulling these like little obscure
I know.
names now. Just keep going. Just keep going.
The
Who else you
Laurinaitis
got?
wasn't brought in on a big contract. Like I
Yeah.
remember more about AJ Klein, like AJ Klein doing stuff here, and Manti Te'o. Like there's a
Remember
lot of
that time-
players you
remember
can look at.
Remember that time Kiko Alonso came back
Yeah.
and it was like, nah, I'm good. Yeah, it's too hot out here.
There
And then
was
like was like done.
there's time they almost
You-
signed Mario
Gosh.
Williams.
That's right.
I just thought
That's
of
right.
something random, Ross, and everybody else is thinking. So
I
Danny
know what you're thinking.
Stutzman, he took 47. Kiko Alonso was 47. Alex Anzalone is 47. Like, what is this with
Yeah.
the linebackers?
There's a trend of
and that's
linebackers here.
Yeah, like, is that the trait? Is that the norm? Anyways, I digress.
Yeah,
Carry on.
But hey, at
Yeah.
least the Saints aren't in the situation that they were in last year, where people were like drumming up like fake press releases for tryouts and stuff
Oh
like
my
that,
God.
and all the other stuff. Like at least like they're out of that. You know what I mean? And like it could be so much worse at this point. And now there's like kind of this, I don't know, shining light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. People showed up for that, right, John? Who actually showed up to
Sadly.
try out.
I was embarrassed. I had to go on there and say, "Hey, this is not real." By the way,
Right.
Like,
This is not an
come on.
actual thing.
Really?
Lance, did you show up to
Yeah.
try out?
Hey, look, you can't be mad at people. Like, I don't know if there's
They
any
love their
Hamilton fans in here, but not trying to throw away their shot. Like that could have
That's right.
been their
Yeah.
only shot.
Could have been. Could have been.
Here's what he was really good until he wasn't. I think now most people would think that Jared Cook might be one of the worst signings because of one play, maybe.
No, I
See,
think he
that's-
gets
you gotta
too
get
much
that out of
hate
your
for that.
mind.
Yeah,
You're
Yeah,
right.
I think so.
You're
I
right,
thought-
but I
I'm
think
saying-
Yeah.
I'm saying legacy wise.
But he got on fire that second half of the year. Like he was.
yeah.
If he didn't get knocked out of that 49ers game with a concussion, they would have won that game.
Mhm.
I mean, that's one of those changing moments. You know what I'm saying? Just like 2011 when Pierre Thomas got knocked out in that game.
What to say?
He stays in.
You gotta open the wound for Lance, huh?
30. I ain't trying to, but we just speaking facts here.
Yeah.
Rough.
I'll throw one more name out there. Ben Grubbs.
I didn't think
Offensive
Ben
lineman.
Grubbs was a bad signing at all.
I think Grubbs was good.
Yeah,
Okay.
Grubbs is solid, man. Coming off all-pro stuff in Baltimore, I thought he was real strong. That's exactly what that line needed for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we are going to be coming up next. We'll be talking about maybe some signings that they can make with another quarterback now that they have 3 very young players at the position.
Spoiler alert, it's Ross Jackson.
Well, Ross has to go get to training camp real quick.
I gotta get back to New Orleans, y'all. I'm late.
Well, yeah, you're at the facility right now. It's a room in there. That's where they sign all the contracts. That's where they signed all of the contracts we just talked about. Is in the room that Ross is in.
Yes, that's good. Actually, Christian's here with the camera right now. That's my idea. I love those pictures. Those are some of my favorites. I love that time of year.
But it's a Monday. Let's get into a mailbag question. We got something from at Shayro. Shout out. Should the Saints sign a veteran quarterback, and if so, who? Ross?
Should they sign a veteran quarterback? Okay, I liked John's point earlier that they don't necessarily have to. You've got former quarterbacks all over the roster. Maybe those are your veteran quarterbacks in a way. They have Taysom Hill in the building, but we don't know when Taysom Hill is going to get back out on the field. I think here's the way that I'll say it. I don't think that they should sign a veteran quarterback, but they might do that. I think that to a certain extent, like maybe we overplay they need a veteran presence thing too much sometimes at certain position groups. Maybe quarterback's a place where we should overplay it, but it's kind of the job of the coaching staff to coach those guys, right? I get that there's like a value to having a veteran player there that's in the room and that's been there and being able to have, I think the reason why it's so important is to have that player that you can go to where you don't have to go to your coach and ask the question that maybe you're a little embarrassed to ask and stuff like that, have the conversations and everything. But it's just a little different, I think, with the Saints having like so many of these quarterbacks up there. So I'll lay that out and say I really like that point. If the Saints do go after a veteran quarterback, I know he's probably not going to be in a hurry to sign anywhere because he's got a high school football championship to defend on an unbeaten season. But I'd love for it to be Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater would be the number one guy for me in that conversation, especially because you're looking at pairing him up with a guy like Tyler Shuck that's dealt with adversity. Teddy Bridgewater's dealt with adversity. They're both Louisville guys. I don't know how much that matters with the distance in between them, but there is something about that camaraderie, that brotherhood, all those other things that I do think is valuable. And then you have a guy like Teddy who stepped in place of a legendary quarterback in Drew Brees and won 5 games in a season while Drew Brees was out. And so there is also something to me about like, hey, here's what it's going to be like stepping into the shoes of a starting New Orleans Saints quarterback and understanding that legacy that exists. And so I think all of those things are valuable. I also think that clearly Teddy Bridgewater is a good coach on the sideline, like clearly, right? What he's been able to do outside of the NFL and all those other pieces. The Lions brought him in the playoffs. He even took some reps during that NFC Championship game and all that, NFC Championship game and all that, and so or divisional game. And so I think all that to say Teddy would be like the number one guy for me in terms of free agency signing. I just don't know that he's going to be looking to come back to the field. So there's other names out there that I think could be valuable. Carson Wentz maybe is a guy that's also managed adversity, has a similar play style to Tyler Shuck or had a similar play style to Tyler Shuck, all those other things. But man, would I love to see Teddy Bridgewater back in New Orleans in that role.
Yeah, so that's where I was going to go. I think that Teddy's like the number one guy. I mean, Ian Book's a free agent. No,
he just tried out for he just tried out for Sean.
Yeah,
he just got a Super Bowl ring. So yeah, look at the laugh now.
But I think that it couldn't hurt to have a veteran in the room because I feel like even if you have to say goodbye to one of the 3 to make room on the roster, I feel like just having someone that has a little bit of of experience. Maybe not anyone that you even ever expect to touch the field for us. I think that's why like Teddy Bridgewater would be a great option. But I just feel like
somebody saying real quick that Teddy Bridgewater hasn't been in the league for years, which is incorrect. He literally played in the plaufs in December, right? Or in January. He literally played this year, 2025.
Yeah, he played
not 2024. 2025, literally this calendar year.
He's played more recently than anybody on the Saints roster. So it's but I do think that adding a veteran into the room would make sense. Lance, do you think that, you know, as a former player, what do you think about having a veteran in the room?
Well, I think there's a disconnect between the four of us in this conversation and a lot of people in the chat. We are not saying that the Saints need to bring in a veteran starting quarterback. That's not this conversation at all. Yep. I think this conversation is more about having a veteran in that room. What does that look like? That is generally going to be a guy that's going to help these young guys, not just with the X's and O's, but with the process of being and becoming a starting quarterback in the NFL. What does that look like? What does their routine look like? How much film are they watching? How early are they getting into the building? What are they doing off the field to take care of themselves? That would be the reason you bring a veteran quarterback in. You don't bring Aaron Rodgers onto this roster. That's not happening. I don't see that happening, and I don't think that would be a good thing for this roster, right? But somebody like a Teddy, somebody like a touchdown Teddy would be awesome because he's a guy that's kind of been in this position before. Maybe not necessarily with this, type of group with 3, 2, and first year of service in the NFL. Like this would be a bigger task for him as far as trying to help these guys and bring them along. But definitely a veteran in that room that has been around long enough to have established a routine for what he does day in and day out, as far as preparing himself to be an NFL quarterback. I think that is an important position for them to have a veteran guy come in and help lead these guys to hopefully becoming successful players in the National Football League. Here's another name, and he's on a roster now that's got a little bit of an overload at quarterback. Kenny Pickett,
one of mine.
I think there's the Eagles connection, a guy that's got some athleticism to him. I think he kind of fits what Kellen Moore wants to do, and I'm not saying trade for him and make him your starting quarterback. I'm really not saying that at all, but he would be a guy that has enough experience in the NFL that if you need him to play, he could play. I don't know that he's a great quarterback, but definitely somebody that's capable, definitely somebody that's been around for long enough that, he could help bring those young guys along. I think that's it wouldn't be one that's going to make people excited. But again, having a veteran in the room just to help bring guys along is not ever really an exciting signing.
Yeah. Well, I want to jump to another mailbag question, and I didn't prepare y'all for this, so I apologize, but it's one that I just think is interesting with what we've talked about today. This is from Jared Loro, and if anyone has any immediate reactions. What position do you think will hold the Saints back the most this season? We've talked a lot about what they've done to rebuild the team, but what position do you think holds the team back? And, it might be the one that we've been talking about.
I'll start and just jump out and say the defensive line. They got to figure the thing out. They got to get after the quarterback, and they got to stop the run. If they can't do those two things, then it doesn't matter how many points the Saints put up on the board or anything. They're in a situation where, with a younger quarterback at the helm, they need all the help they can get. And the defensive line was a problem last year. It's been a problem for a while, right? In my opinion. So that's a spot for me that they have got to get top-notch performance, consistent performance. I think they can, but right now that's the position I'm probably most concerned about. Like, I think they'll be fine at quarterback. I think at all the other skill positions, tight ends got me a little bit concerned, right? because Juwan's probably the only healthy guy right now. Even looking at Dallin Holker, he's not 100% right now. I can tell you that. Taysom Hill's not 100%. Neither is Foster Moreau, right? And Maliki Matavao that he just got. I mean, he's a rookie, but if I look at the other positions, I feel good about linebacker. I feel good about corner. Quincy Riley didn't participate in his rookie minicamp. He should be okay. It's minor, but safety, I feel okay. Special teams, I feel okay. But defensive line is what keeps me up. Like that's what I would say keeps me up right now. I think the offensive line is going to be really good. I think so. But defensive line, if they can't get after the quarterback and they cannot stop the run, that is what's going to be the hindrance of this team from growing anywhere, going where they need to go.
Tell me if I'm completely off base, but I'm going to go with quarterback. I think quarterback is what holds this team back, just because they do have, even if it is Spencer Rattler starting, that is someone that is super young and new to the NFL. And I think that quarterback being what holds them back this year would be the best case scenario for this team. Because, I mean, it's a young quarterback. They're going to grow. And unlike the rest of the team, that is a position that you feel like will only get better without having to make another signing over the next couple of years.
Unless it's so bad that they feel like they have to draft another quarterback next year. But again, I mean, I kind of agree with Dylan. I mean, if you're starting a rookie, generally, they're going to take a while to come along. And honestly, for us, it might not be the worst case scenario, because then if we're not winning as many games, then we're in a better position when it comes to the draft next year. And we might have a little bit of money to spend in free agency. I mean, it might not be the worst case scenario. But I do agree with John as well. Like, and I wasn't even going to say a position group. I was just going to say that I think the pass rush is going to potentially hold us back, this season, and without seeing any full team reps and understanding where guys are lining up, it's kind of hard to envision what this pass rush is going to look like. But I mean, they weren't very good last year, and we've got basically the same group of guys. So I don't know why we would think just because the scheme is changing, all of a sudden these guys are going to be game wreckers. I'm holding out hope that some of these guys can get back to their true form, their best form. But I think that's the most concerning part of this defense to me right now, for sure, is the pass rush or lack thereof.
Yeah. One tiny observation, and Ross, I don't know if you picked up on it. When you do 7-on-7 and all that stuff, you always look at all that stuff with the offense. They actually had the two edge rushers out there on the field, so it was more like 9 of them, but the edge rushers were just kind of there. So I'm interested in seeing how, because that's not something we really see ever in that particular team period and stuff. But again, I think the potential could be there for the defensive line, but I'm also with Lance. Just because you change the scheme doesn't mean that it's just going to magically come together. Like I've always firmly believed, and that's what I always had a problem with Dennis Allen's. Like, hope is not a strategy. Hope is not a football strategy. You hope that you get better. Either you do or you don't. And Saints have got to get better at that area.
Well, John, they just need to keep doing what they're doing. Ross, what are you going to
say? To John's point about the edge rushers, I'll have a column coming out about this soon, but I talked to Jay Rogers after practice, and one of the things that he talked about was like they're defining the interior of their defensive line from over the tackle to over the center, and they're defining the edge outside the tackle and beyond. So that kind of lends to what John's describing in terms of how these edge rushers are going to be used a little bit differently than what we've seen here in the past. I think these guys, I think you're all right. I think you guys have all hit, defensive line is huge. Quarterback is huge. I think those are the two biggest positions. So if I can amend the question a little bit, just so I can get another position group in there, I would say what other position group has the ability, like could potentially hold the Saints back? And that's where I go to offensive line. Not that they will. I agree with John. I think that they can be really good, but we also don't know yet. And that's much like defensive line, that's where everything starts on the field, right? You got to win in the trenches. And this is what Kellen Moore has been saying all offseason. You win by building in the trenches. It's a line of scrimmage game, all these other things. So that's the other position group that I would highlight Because if your run game's not working, it might be because of a lack of execution up front, or being outplayed out front, whatever it might be. If your protection's not holding up for your quarterback, you're not going to get anything going there. I'm not predicting that that's going to be the case. I agree with John. I think that the offensive line will be pretty solid this year because I like the talent that they've added in Calvin Banks Jr. in particular. But if there's another position group that could create a little bit of an issue, that would be the spot to watch, because if your offensive line struggles, your team struggles. So that's the other one that I would keep an eye out on, even though I'm not predicting that they necessarily will struggle.
Yeah, they added Banks Jr., Radens, and look, I talked to Brendan Nugent, and one of the best things, because I think it's why you feel confident in the offensive line. Now with Joel Thomas coming back, Joel Thomas and Brendan Nugent work together. And then you added TJ Paganetti from the Eagles. And one of the things I asked him, he's like, they're working in sync already. They got 3 sets of eyes on the offensive line. The way that they are approaching it, I just get the sense that they're going into this operation fully aligned, fully focused. Now the talent still has to show up, right? But the coaching, I don't think it would be from a coaching perspective of why the offensive line would struggle this year. And that's just me. And we're not going to know until training camp, just so everybody knows. You can't evaluate. It's hard to evaluate offensive linemen until you get to training camp. But the foundational pieces like hand placement, footwork, technique, football IQ, where their strengths are, what are you asking them to do, all this stuff in the classroom, all of that is going to come into play now until you get into training camp. So that's why I feel confident on the O-line, at least, that they have the ability, and they're going to need to be excellent, superb, whoever plays behind them under center.
Yeah. Well, thank you for making Saint Squad your first listen of this Monday morning. Check out me, Ross, John, and Lance on our socials for the latest. We'll be right back here Thursday to be talking, more New Orleans Saints football. And if you're not tired of hearing Ross's voice, make Locked On Saints your second listen of the day.
Everyone.